I thought to myself, if the Tigers ever do win a World Series in my lifetime, I don't think I will be able to personally control my emotions. Like, I
Mhm.
have a hard enough time controlling my emotions when they suck. If they win, I might turn into like a vigilante. I don't know. I might turn into like Bruce Wayne and just but like a Bruce Wayne who like celebrates and drinks constantly for 9 months straight, probably more than 9 months. Um, but yeah, I don't know if I'll be able. I don't know if I'll be able to control my emotions. I'll need to be like Michael Scott in the office. I'll need like the happy box and the sad box. Um, I don't know. I think I'll be able to control them, but I don't know. I think I might cry for like I saw Marley and Me for the first time.
It's Baseball at the Corner. This is the Michigan in Trouble podcast with your hosts, Alex S. Freeman and Luke Jaconis. Hello and welcome to the Michigan
God,
and Trumbull podcast. There he is, folks, Luke Jaconis. As we come on into this week in a very different mood than we were in last week when we recorded, as we come in now 1-5 week for the Detroit Tigers, Luke. Just the walk-off win in the 10th on Tuesday. The Akil Baddoo story kind of the highlight of the week, I guess, and a lot of bad news coming at us this week. So outside of the Tigers, Luke, how are you?
It was a very whatever weekend, as I told you before we started recording. I had a headache on Saturday, probably from the game, probably because I may have had, I was out in the sun, getting some sun on the weekend, and maybe that mixed with the Michelob Ultras that I probably, drink a lot of those. I know that for a fact, but those are like water pretty much. That doesn't really count.
But you do still have to drink actual water, Luke.
Yeah, I know. And then I didn't eat, and then the game happened, and then the game sucked, and then I watched Godzilla versus Kong, and that sucked. It was a bad weekend. Luckily, I have my health, and I have good friends and family, so I guess that's the only win I can really look at right now. But boy, yeah, it was bad. It was so bad. And you mentioned Akil Baddoo. Those stories honestly feel like that happened a few months ago.
It really
and
does.
I'm not trying to be over dramatic.
Yeah,
it feels like a distant memory, right?
He had a pretty quiet series in his appearances in Cleveland, so it does feel like a very long time ago. Lots and lots of stuff has happened. Let's kind of dive into what's probably the biggest story leading the way. Miggy's on the 10-day IL with a left biceps strain. You texted me about this when this news broke, and I guess we'll just go right into it. Outside of, I don't think that it's early in the season. It's an early season injury. I don't know that this Tigers team was maybe going to the playoffs. So it doesn't impact any of that. The biggest storyline there is how does this impact the milestone chase, which is something that you texted me about before we got started. So 12 home runs left to go to get to 500. Do we think he'll make the home run milestone this season?
It's hard to say because we don't know the severity of this right now, and all the reports coming out of this story thus far are there's not really a timetable for his return. It does appear to kind of be down the route that you had mentioned earlier while we were talking, that AJ Hinch made this move of putting him on the IL. The team made this move in terms of this out of precaution. They don't want this to potentially snowball into something way worse than maybe a 10-day stint on the IL. I can't really accurately say. I don't ever really say anything accurate on this show. But in particular, given the state of Miggy's injuries, his health injuries, and the history of all that, I'll say I think he has a better chance of getting the 500 home runs than the 3,000 hits right now. And again, this is assuming he's even coming back. I don't think he's coming back till sometime in May. I don't think.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we don't see him again sometime in May. Again, I could be completely wrong. As I just said a moment ago, I'm usually wrong a lot on this show, but I just have this kind of gut feeling that they're going to play it very, very, very safe with Mickey coming back. And it's not because he's injured, not only because he's injured, this injury that he has with the left bicep is what shut his season down in 2018. Mm-hmm. So I think they will be uber cautious that they do not have to do that again. So unfortunately, although milestones are great, we were really kind of wanting to follow those numbers as we got closer and closer to 500 and 3,000. I think that's going to take a back seat for the time being. And now his first and foremost concern, and the team's first and foremost concern, will be getting Miguel Cabrera healthy and getting him back onto the field when he's ready and he can play at his full capacity. It sucks, man. It's such a gut punch. It just sucks. It's such a bummer. And I don't even mean to, and again, this is not us saying Miggy is done for the year. We're not saying that at all. Mm-hmm. It just right now, it doesn't feel like not a great optimistic outlook. Given the fact that it's the same injury from 2018, I think that's why I'm so concerned that this could potentially spiral into something more. Because if I remember correctly, in 2018, they kind of did the same thing they're doing now. The bicep was hurting. He sat out for a few weeks. He played then for a week or two, and then he completely just destroyed it in sometime late May or June, whenever it was, and then he got shut down for the season. So to answer your question, yeah, I think 500 still has a decent chance depending when he comes back. 3,000, I don't think you're seeing that till next year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's kind of where we're standing. You know, he hit 10 home runs in the 60-game season, so assuming he's back even takes as long as June, that still kind of leaves plenty of time for him to get the 12 home runs. But yeah, 131 hits to get to 3,000 hits. His career 162 game average is 114 hits in a season. Yeah. Started off a little bit, game one looked great, but then has been pretty slow since over the last week. And so, yeah, probably not getting to 3,000 hits this year, which just means the value of early season Tigers tickets next season just went up, because you might get to see Miggy get his 3,000th hit.
And again, we're not trying to be, although actually we have every right to be pessimists right now after this Cleveland series. So if we want to be a little bit bitchy today, by all means, we're gonna do it.
For those of you that are looking for positive conversation, your best bet is going to be in the back half of the show this week, as we kind of look ahead to some good news. But as we hang out in this past week, it's probably not going to be fun. There's some bright spots that happened in this Cleveland series, but they appear bright because they're surrounded by so much darkness. It's not.
My father used to always say growing up that the past is for cowards and losers. So I think that's why we're going to be diving so much into the past this past series, because I think the Tigers played like cowards and they were losers. So that's what happens. Maybe cowards is a bit strong, but still, my dad used to say the quote, not me. But Miggy, the Miggy news is tough. And again, it all depends when he comes back. If he's back in 2 or 3 weeks, then you can get hot. I mean, I still don't think 3,000, I think, was kind of a stretch even going into this season. Yeah. I think we felt confident that if he played a full 162, it could happen if he got hot. But I just don't feel like the calendar is going to be on his side. My main concern right now is I want Miggy to be healthy, because Miguel Cabrera is a staple in this lineup. I have said it before. I will say it again. When Miguel Cabrera is healthy, even though he is an older and far removed from his Triple Crown days, Miguel Cabrera, he can still be a huge factor in the lineup. Unfortunately, what the Tigers are dealing with right now, even when Miggy is healthy, Miggy is not a number 3 hitter anymore. I don't even think he's a number 4 hitter anymore. I think he's looking more along the lines of a 5, maybe even a 6 guy. That's where I think Miguel Cabrera is at this point in his career. Unfortunately, the Tigers have no other options. You would love maybe to see for a guy like Jeimer Candelario, as he's kind of batted third this season, kind of take over that role. Maybe Willie Castro. The way Wilson Ramos is hitting, he could maybe move into that 3 or 4 spot in the not too distant future. But as it stands right now, even when Miggy is healthy, the Tigers just don't have the depth or the star power yet, or just flat out the talent to put someone at 3 or 4 and let Miggy go down in the batting order. Maybe in a year or two, we see that as Miggy's contract comes to a close and you see guys like Torque and Riley Green making their debuts. Maybe you go out from a trade. Maybe they get someone big in free agency, and then that kind of gives Miggy the opportunity to slide down in the batting order. But as it stands right now, Miggy's kind of the only guy. And unfortunately, I don't think he's a 3 or 4 hitter anymore. I still think he can hit. I still think he can definitely be a huge help in this lineup, but I don't think I see that coming from the 3 or 4 spot.
Yeah, I agree that I think he's much more in that 5-6 spot. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with hitting 5 or 6. There's plenty of guys that, I mean, Albert Pujols hits at the bottom of the Angels lineup, and that's finds a fine spot to be, especially as you get further along in your career. You got a little less speed in the base path. It's much more about getting guys on ahead of you so that you can knock them in. That's where Miguel Cabrera is going to come back, and it's going to be very important. But yeah, I hope this is truly a 10-day stint. I hope he's back sooner rather than later, but I also agree completely that I want them to really take their time with this and make sure that he does come back healthy, that we don't jeopardize more of the season to try and get him back in, especially if the rest of the lineup is going to kind of play like they played this past week. There's not really doesn't feel like a need to rush Miguel Cabrera back into the lineup.
Exactly. And also, one thing you want to keep in mind too is last weekend, Miggy was dealing with some cramps. So maybe this is just something where his body is just still kind of shaking the rust off. If that's the case, then what were all those reports coming out of spring training that Miguel Cabrera is in the best shape of his life? Because if he's in the best shape of his life, shouldn't he be right now in lean, mean, fight machine shape? I'm being facetious, obviously, but just, something to kind of think about. Maybe that's what it is, though, honestly, with Miggy right now and the bicep. Maybe it's just he's a little bit sore. Maybe he's just still trying to find that groove. Who knows? It was cold that first game of the season for those first 3 innings of that first game of the season. Then the weather was beautiful in Detroit, it seemed, right after, for the most part. So I hope it's a speedy recovery. Obviously, we can't wait to see those milestones. I still think he's getting to them. I still think at some point in time he's going to get to 500 and 3,000. He's still with the Tigers for, I think, another 2 years. He's going to get those milestones. It might just be more of an army crawl now instead of a sprint. Here's one thing I kind of want to ask you, and I know we got other stuff to talk about, so we can try to speed through this question I got for you. But isn't it frustrating? I attribute Miguel Cabrera to the guys like Albert Pujols and Yadier Molina, Nelson Cruz, and in particular with guys like Pujols, Nelson Cruz, who still hit for power. They're only a couple years older than Miggy, and yet they're still incredibly dangerous at the plate. We can definitely attest to that when it comes to Nelson Cruz. So isn't it just so frustrating to be like, Miggy is in terms of talent, all-time talent, he's up there with those guys.
Yeah.
But it just seems as he's getting to the later half of his career, and as his career does finally kind of start to come to a close, he is slowing down at a much more rapid pace than guys like Pujols or Cruz, Yachty even. He's having a good start to the season. He's hitting, from what I can tell. So, I mean, just in general, I mainly attribute it to guys like Pujols and Cruz because they're in the AL. But I just, it's something I've noticed, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it definitely is. And you wonder what the cause of that might be. I don't know if it's institutional support from the Tigers organization, that the training staff maybe just isn't quite equipped to be dealing with the issues of an older baseball player. Whatever that may be, the recovery methods that Miggy is using versus what those guys are doing, any number of things, because you also, like, you see it in there are always those guys that seem ageless, and not that like Cruz seems ageless. Like, I still don't, like, I'm not gonna leave Nelly Cruz out there to run the base path when I really got to get a runner around. But he, continues to hit like he's ageless. And so there's potentially something in their routine that they're doing that Miguel Cabrera is not doing, either from a Detroit Tigers institutional standpoint or just in his own life, that he's not.
Personal life. One thing I got to keep in mind too is Miggy played hurt for a lot of years. Yeah. A lot of years Miguel Cabrera played hurt with the hopes and the mindset of trying to bring a World Series to the Tigers. And it's funny now when I see people on Twitter bashing Miguel, being like, over the hill, washed up, overrated, not worth the money, should retire, blah, blah, blah. I don't agree with any of those people, because although, Miguel Cabrera is definitely, once again, not the Miguel Cabrera of 10 years ago, Miguel Cabrera is still probably one of the greatest hitters most of us will have seen in our lifetime. I know, at least for me, no doubt about it. In my lifetime of being a Tigers fan, one of the greatest hitters I've ever seen in the game of baseball. Top 10, no doubt about it. Future Hall of Famer, no doubt about it. So it is frustrating when people really crap on Miggy to the extent where they're like, he's washed up, he should retire. Because I don't believe any of those things. I can sit here, and even as a diehard Tigers fan, I can say that, hey, yeah, it's definitely not the Miggy we're used to from 10 years ago, but he's still productive. But these people who think that he's overrated, washed up, should just hang it up, they're idiots. They don't remember the Miguel Cabrera, what he did for this team 10 years ago, and how the injuries that he battled through in the hopes to bring a World Series to Detroit. And unfortunately, it never fully panned out like he would have liked, that we all would have liked. But you can never deny Miguel Cabrera's heart that he's given to this team. He's played through the injuries. He's still here. He is literally the last soldier at the corral, so to speak. And he's still doing his best. And there's a part of me, too, that I think, like I said before, I'd love to see the Tigers, hopefully 2 or 3 years down the road, even when Miggy's contract is up, if he wants to go and the Tigers want to give him a 1-year, $3 or $4 million contract, whatever the number is, for him to come back and not be the everyday guy, but hopefully still be on the roster so that when this team is competing once again for a World Series, he can get that ring, because Lord knows he deserves it. The man absolutely deserves it. He will one day have a statue at Comerica Park, guarantee it. When Miguel Cabrera is done playing for the Tigers, nobody will ever wear the number 24 ever again. Period.
Yep.
For the Tigers, that is. Yeah. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think that's one of the, loyalty aside, which all of your loyalty points to Miguel Cabrera are absolutely true. I agree with you 100%. There are many teams in Major League Baseball that would love to have Miguel Cabrera in their lineup, to have his bat, because we saw it last year. When his bat's working, it works. And it a little bit of a slow go, but ultimately came out fine. 10 home runs, nice on base percentage. Like he does a nice job at the plate, and he will continue to do a nice job at the plate, especially as he chases these milestones. So, and who's the next guy up in this Tigers lineup? Who's there to take the spot right now?
He's still carrying the team on his shoulders. He's 37 years old. I don't want to say a shell of his former self, but definitely not, again, the Miguel Cabrera of the past. And he's still the guy. He's still the guy. And not only what he does on the field, but the leader that he is in the clubhouse too. So again, these people who are knocking Miggy to the extent where he should just hang it up, check yourself, because I think you're forgetting what this man has done for this team, for this organization, for the city of Detroit since he came to the team in 2008. He is a future Hall of Famer. He is a soon-to-be retired number at Comerica with the Tigers. He will go down as one of the greatest Tigers of all time. So for those of you who are so quick to just kick the guy when he's down, slash him, sully his name, whatever you want to call it, just slow your roll a bit, because this guy is one of the greats to ever do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift into kind of a wrap up on the Cleveland series. If you want our thoughts on the Minnesota series, head over to our YouTube channel. We did a live show on Thursday on the day off, and we kind of wrapped up that series there. So we won't spend a lot of time. We may reference back to Minnesota, but we won't really talk about it. We've moved on, unfortunately, to this Cleveland series where the Tigers were swept by Cleveland, starting with a 4-1 loss on Friday. 4 hits, 1 error for the Tigers against Cleveland's 7 hits. But let's, give some credit where credit's due. Tigers pitching after Teheran was a last-minute scratch, who is now on the 60-day IL, was originally a 10-day. They've made it a 60-day. But they combined 10 strikeouts, 0 walks, Derek Holland, Buck Farmer, Michael Fulmer, which is a fine outing. I would take that most any time. But obviously the bats not working, which you're going to hear us repeat time and time again as we talk through this series. Friday night, what were your takeaways Friday night, Luke? Saturday's a whole different barrel of words.
This isn't really fair to say because it's just not fair to say. But I feel like the minute Julio Teheran was scratched from the start, my personal attitude shifted. When I knew it was becoming a bullpen day against Cleveland, I went, oh no. Now, to be fair, as you said, I thought they did as well as they could given how short of notice they had. So I think the final was what, 4-1 on Friday?
Yeah, 4-1 I think
again,
that it was
realistically, like you mentioned, had the bats just even been semi-competent throughout this series, maybe that's a different story. On the Friday game, Derek Holland I thought was fine. Who else pitched in that game? I don't even remember.
Buck Farmer and Michael Fulmer were the other two.
Okay, yeah, yep, and Fulmer pitched pretty well. I think he gave up the bomb to, was it Franmil Reyes? Maybe, I don't remember. I think he gave up a home run from what I recall.
Yeah, but I think he gave up the solo shot, and it was I think it was a 3-run shot off of Derek Holland in the first.
Yes, that's right. Yep, it was
first time through the order for a game he was not prepared to be the starter for.
And that was the game too, where I think the ball hit second base in the first inning, so that was a bad break. And they turned and then a double play that probably should have been turned, but was a little bit slow. I don't remember what happened there. If it was a miscue, I honestly don't remember. It feels like it was about 6 years ago.
That's kind of a point that I want to bring up. Is while I like what AJ Hinch is doing with the lineup, I think that it's nice to see some experimentation, moving guys around. I do feel like, particularly this weekend, we saw a couple of spots where if guys were more every day in those positions, we would have turned a couple double plays that they just didn't quite have the timing down with each other to really make the mechanics of the double play work. It's stuff that I feel like most teams would turn that we did not this weekend. And I don't know if that's because of positional chemistry or if it is just who these guys happen to be. Could go either way. But you know, just a thing that I'm definitely watching going forward is that if we continue to shift a lot of guys around the infield like that, do we continue to not turn some of these double plays that we should probably be turning?
No, that's fair. That's a very fair point. And I think right now, really, when it comes to defense, the only two guys that are kind of the guaranteed everyday guys, not really switching positions at least as much as we've seen thus far. Jamer at third and Willie Castro at short. Hold on, I'm going to turn my light on. Just give me 1 second. Hold on.
Yep.
I'm leaving the conversation, and now I'm back. It was
so
Jamer
upset.
and Willie Castro. Yeah, see, that was much better too. You can actually see my face now. It doesn't look like I'm telling a scary story in the dark.
Well, this weekend of the Tigers felt like a scary story in the dark.
It was like an R.L. Stein novel or something. I couldn't believe it. But no, yeah, I think mainly the only two guys you've seen that have been at the constant every day, not really a lot of positional changes. Willie at short, Jamer at third. That's a fair point too. There has been a lot of mix and matching with this team in the lineup on defense. So that's been, just something to kind of note. I think there's been a few times I've gone, yeah, this is working. There's been a few times I've gone, ooh, I feel like that's a play that needs to be made. So, kind of to each their own. But going back to your initial question, is what I thought about the Friday series. When Teheran was scratched at the last minute, sorry, I just had a bad feeling. But, the bullpen did as well as they could. The bats didn't back them up. That's kind of the overall story of this series. The Julio Teheran injury, I know we did a whole kind of thesis on Miggy's injury, but Teheran, that's another thing too I'm kind of bummed about. Not that, again, that I think Julio Teheran was magically the Julio Teheran of a few years ago when he was with the Braves, but it just seems like the Tigers have this bad luck of signing these free agents to a one-year deal, a minor league deal, or whatever it might be. They go out there, they pitch a start, 1 or 2 good starts, and then they get hurt. I already have shades, flashbacks to 2019 with Matt Moore, Tyson Ross, and those guys. So it's just, I don't know. It just seems to not be up there. They just can't seem to get it right with these minor league signings they bring in, or these free agent signings, whatever you want to call them. It's just frustrating.
And it feels like one of those another front office error. In that maybe they're picking up these guys because there is something that everybody else seems to know about them that our guys are missing, or they're because they're not yet in the mode of we have to go win a World Series this season. They're way more willing to gamble on the upside for these guys. That obviously. Maybe the sense is, okay, Teheran is hurt and we got to shut him down for the year. No harm, no foul, really. we're not overly invested. But if he had been the Julian Teheran of the past, then perhaps it would have been it would have looked like a genius.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't look that bad. Yeah.
Yeah,
it doesn't work out.
No, you're exactly right. From like an upper management, vantage point, it definitely is. It's kind of it's a win-win. If he turns out to be the Julio Teheran of years past, awesome. If he doesn't, it's like great. We won't see you next year. So it's the same thing. We've seen these guys, they bring on these 1-year deals. Like I said, Matt Moore, Tyson Ross. Last year was Ivan Nova. This year it looks like it might be Teheran. I hope to God it's Jose Urena, because I do not like him. There is something about him that bugs me. It's like my spidey senses are kicking in, and I just don't like him. Maybe it's because his past and his history of hitting players and things like that. He's kind of been known to do that. Not that I'm saying it's intentional or unintentional. It was, in the past, but I just have seen him pitch twice now, and I have not felt good about either of his starts. He gets shell shocked for a bunch of runs last week against Minnesota. Today he can't find the play. I know he only gave up 2 runs, but it just seemed like he was much worse than only giving up 2 runs today. I don't know. Urena, I have no confidence in at all. So I hope he kind of follows suit with the Ivan Novas and Tyson Rosses of seasons past, and he is a one and done guy with the Tigers. And I have no doubt that he probably will be. Or hell, maybe even get off to a hot start and then ship him off with the trade deadline, because I just don't feel like he fits in with this team. And I personally have just a weird gut feeling with him. I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't like this guy. Maybe that's judgmental of me, but it's just kind of like, I don't know. Sometimes we got those weird feelings, and I don't like him.
Well, it's one of those things that he's not even just inconsistent between starts. It's an inconsistency between innings. You don't know which guy's going to come out of the dugout. Even Sunday afternoon, he had an 11 pitch inning, and then he had a 34 pitch inning.
Exactly.
And so, it can get ugly very fast, and that's never what you want to see. Even if you had told me he's an inning eaters guy and he's going to take 20 pitches every inning, but he's going to get the outs, maybe get one base runner, but get around it and all of that. Like, that would not be fun to watch necessarily, but it would be fine. It would be serviceable. But it's the fact that he could come out, get through 3 guys in 9 pitches, and then the next inning just get shellacked for 12 runs. Is I don't have any time for that.
Well, they did the exact same thing management did with Teheran that they're now doing with Urena. They're the same guys, essentially. I think Urena had a 1-year, $6 million deal. Obviously, Teheran was brought in on that minor league deal, but it was the same mentality for both those signings. If they're kind of who they were 4 or 5 seasons ago, great. If they're not, they won't be here next season. It doesn't matter. So this sounds kind of mean, but they're very expendable players. They can. It's either way. It's a win-win for the Tigers, realistically. There's a point I wanted to make too about Urena, but I couldn't. I can't think of it now. But kind of what I talked about the other day. Watching inning eaters is never fun. It doesn't matter who the inning eater really is, because they do one of 2 things, which is what Urena has done in his first 2 starts. They either get shell shocked, as you put it, and they don't make it past the 3rd inning, or they barely claw their way to 5 innings and they give up a couple of runs, which is what happened today against Cleveland. So I think he went 4 2/3 and gave up 2 runs. Like, again, I wouldn't want to go to if I was going to a baseball game and I saw Urena pitching, I'd go, oh man, out of all the pitchers, this is the guy I got to watch, the innings eater. So, and I'm probably being a bit harsh on the guy. And for those who are listening or watching right now, I'll be like, it's a bit judgmental for the first, 10 games, not even 10 games into the season. Put yourself in our shoes, Tigers fans. We just watched us get swept by Cleveland. The team played like dog crap. It is what it is. It's a frustrating time right now, and I think we could all agree with that. And I hope Urena proves me wrong. I hope I can come back on the show in 2 or 3 weeks after seeing his next couple of starts and go, hey, I was wrong. He's turning around and he's looking good, and good for him. But right now, as it stands.
Yeah, absolutely. So one last thing before we head to break, let's talk a little bit about Saturday's game. 11-3 loss, not a whole lot to talk about there. 5 hits for the Tigers. Tarek Skubal struggled, 3 strikeouts, 3 walks, gave up 3 home runs. 6 total walks in the game for Tigers pitching. Obviously, walks being a big problem in that moment. But Lang came in, made his MLB debut, looked pretty good in an inning of relief. So that's a nice little bright spot. Maybe finding some good bullpen guys as we come out of this. That's literally my highlight from Saturday. I don't have much else to talk about on the good side.
Yeah, I don't think I saw Lang pitch live, because by that point in time, I had to cool down for a minute. So I think
it was pretty rough. Oh, Robbie Grossman hit his first home run as a Tiger on Saturday.
Yeah, and I know Jamer had his first home run of the year. He had a 2-run shot, I think, in the 9th. Whatever at this point. I mean, yeah, it was bad. I'm not gonna knock on Tarek. It's okay for us, I think, to want to start to kind of seeing some growth and development from guys like Tarek Skubal and Casey Mize. But you have to remember, folks, although it's so easy sometimes to be like, come on, why aren't you getting it? I don't think Mize or Skubal have even made 10 starts yet in the major leagues. I mean, it might be right around that number, but it's regardless, even if it's a couple games over, a couple games under, they're still so young into this process. So we saw what Tarek Skubal did last week against Cleveland. This start, unfortunately, was a different tale, but I'm still stoked when Tarek is pitching, when Casey Mize is pitching. And for me, those are must-watch games, because even if it doesn't go the way like it did this past start for Tarek against Cleveland, it's still a glimpse into the future, which is exciting. So take that for what it is. Maybe that's me trying to put a positive spin on it. Before we go to break, my overall thoughts on the offense. We've talked pitching. It wasn't great against Cleveland. They did what they did on Friday, whatever. Overall, not good from the pitching side. But the offensive side, I think, is even worse. This team looks atrocious on offense. Absolutely atrocious. There's just no consistency. There's no good at-bats happening. There's no – what was the stat? They didn't have a runner in scoring position.
Yes, until Sunday's game. Sunday is in the series against Cleveland. Sunday was the first time they got
in the first inning,
a runner in scoring position.
Yeah, after how I don't, wasn't it like 27 innings or something like that? I don't remember what it was. Was that what? Yeah, okay. So I mean, just that's the proof is in the pudding right there. Wilson Ramos is hitting well, but you notice he's got 4 home runs and 4 RBIs on the season, because no one's ever on base when he hits a home run. All his home runs are solo shots this year, which is great. I mean, he's off to a nice little start, but again, it's just squandered opportunities. And the worst part was, honestly, even kind of removing the Sunday game from the equation, there was never really opportunity to begin with, because no one was getting on base. It was just so boring and pitiful to watch. They get blown out damn near, and then they get the mercy run in the 8th or the 9th inning. They score a run or 2. It's like, great, that would have been helpful maybe 2 hours ago, but this game is long out of reach. So the offense is atrocious right now. I picked him to have a good week, and Jonathan Scope, but he's really struggling right now. To his credit, he did have a 2-hit game Sunday against Cleveland, so that's maybe that kind of gets him going as he continues the road trip against Houston and Oakland.
And as Gibby and Shep were reporting, Jonathan Scope has been spending a lot of time in the batting cage. Gibby may think too much time in the batting cage, trying to get back to what he was doing last year. And I think that's a good point. Everything we talked about that was good about the Tigers at bats against the Cleveland the first time went away this time. We talked about very disciplined plate approaches in the opening weekend, and just no discipline here. Lots of swinging at first pitches and weakly grounding out or popping out on the first pitch. And it is one thing if the guy gives you something hittable on the first pitch to actually hit it and maybe get the hit. But being disciplined, making the guy pitch to you, all seems to have gone away. Just no vision at the plate at the moment.
No, that's exactly right. There's just, the offense doesn't have an identity right now. They were fairly solid in the opening series against Cleveland. They showed up at times against Minnesota, but this series was it looked like a completely different offense. This is a bold claim, but what I saw from this team this past weekend, it gave me flashbacks to 2019. And you don't ever want to have flashbacks to 2019 if you're a Tigers fan. So again, and it's hard too. We kind of talked about this a little bit in the episode, but we're only 9 games into the season. Honestly, they go out and take 2 of 3 from Houston, our morale is completely flipped. But just given the fact with how putrid the offense played this past weekend against Cleveland, the pitching really wasn't there for the most part. And then you add on top of all that the injuries to Julio Teheran and the big man, Miguel Cabrera. It's just a real downer time right now for the Tigers. And now they got to go play Houston, arguably the best team in the American League right now. And an Oakland team who, although they got off to a slow start, will not be a cold team much longer. Oakland is a good baseball team. There's no doubt about it. So it's just frustrating right now. And I don't know what the solution is with offense because they're doing quite a few different lineup shuffles, as we've mentioned. AJ Hinch is really kind of moving the lineup around, which is great, but it's a tough go right now. There's really nobody in the lineup that I feel great about. Again, Wilson Ramos is probably hitting the best, but even when he does hit, there's no one on base. So it doesn't make a difference. Even the Akil Baddoo magic seems to kind of gone away after this last series. Jamer was there. Willie Castro's been struggling. But yeah, I mean, Nomar Mazara is struggling. Victor Reyes, no good. Jacoby Jones, no good. Jonathan Scope, no good. Even Nico Goodrum cooled off this series. It's just everybody right now on offense scuffling, and it is very frustrating as a fan to watch. Renato Nunez made his debut on Sunday, and that wasn't pretty either. So it's just all across the board, not really singling out anybody here in particular. The offense just, sucks. That's what it's been. That's what it's been after this past series. Hopefully it changes, but you got a tall task ahead of you, boys, as you go on the road out west against Houston and Oakland. It's not going to be easy, but you got to start somewhere. You can't let this thing snowball. You cannot let this losing streak snowball. They're already 3-6. You got to find a way to salvage some of these losses from this past week. You got to make up for them on the West Coast, and it has to be how it is. So get it done.
Absolutely, and we'll talk about next week schedule as we come up back from the ad break. We're going to take a second. We're going to step away, pay some bills, as they say. Very, very, very small bills is what we'll pay with this next ad break.
Yeah, wow. I'm not going to do that. I was going to go to the bathroom, but okay, go pay your bills.
Yeah, we're going to go pay the bills, get the checkbook out, put the stamp on the envelope. We'll be right back, folks. We are back, the Michigan and Trumbull podcast. Luke with the location change and the sweatshirt change as we come in there. Luke, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
I can. Happy.
Hear you just fine. You look upset. You got a nice little ventriloquism effect going on here.
Yeah, that look on my face probably is a primetime example of what I look like when I have to watch this Tigers offense take at bats.
Yeah,
I pretty much make that face for. Oh, I'm back now.
Oh, there he is, coming back in.
Yeah. Let's see.
Welcome
right,
back.
Let's get this done. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Should I do another virtual background for our video listeners?
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Classic.
People are probably like, "What the hell is going on? Why
is
that guy have a
is
picture
happening?"
It's a long story, folks. That's for an after-hour show when we're having some beers.
But also, folks, this is a good moment to remind you that there is always a video version of the show. If you are listening to the audio version, it runs on our YouTube channel and our Facebook page right around lunchtime on Mondays. You can usually watch it right before first pitch of the afternoon games on Monday. Obviously, this week we do not have afternoon game on Monday. We head to Houston, but first, some bright spots, some good news potentially coming. Spencer Turnbull should be back soon. Had a rehab start in South Bend over the weekend. I would sort of take that as a sign that we will see him after this road trip concludes. That's kind of my my sense is that he will join us in Detroit once again a little later this month, which I think you said last show that you expected we would see him by the end of the month.
Yeah, I think I had said that I thought maybe best case scenario, maybe late on this road trip in Oakland, but more likely probably back home next week once we're back in Detroit, which is great because obviously with the Teheran news of him going to be shut down for a little bit, or a little bit more than a little bit, quite a bit. We're going to need someone to kind of step up and take his spot. And Spence is just that guy. I think in the absence of Teheran and before Spence comes back, I think Fulmer is going to get a start this week in Houston, which I have mixed feelings on because I think he's been pitching really well out of the pen. So it just kind of makes sense that he would be the guy to get a spot start in Houston right now, given the current situation. But I'm also kind of like, when he was a starter last year, it really wasn't all that good. It was actually pretty god dang awful. Like, it was really, really bad. So I guess we'll just kind of have to wait and see which Michael Fulmer shows up. But to his credit, I thought he's pitched really well out of the pen so far this year. I know he's given up a couple home runs, but I think he gave up one to, I think Fulmer gave up a home run. I know to Nelson Cruz, and then I think it was Franmil Reyes this past series in Cleveland, which makes sense because Nelson Cruz is a noted Tigers killer. I think Franmil Reyes is honestly on his way to becoming an official Tigers killer if he isn't one already.
Well, I think in 19 games against the Tigers, he has something like 21 RBIs. So
yeah, I think today was his 20th game. I think they said he has 10 home runs in 20 games against the Tigers. So yeah, he's officially a Tiger killer in my eyes. I think it's Franmil Reyes, Nelson Cruz, Whit Merrifield. If ever those three guys end up on a team playing against the Tigers, I'm not even going to watch. I'm just going to say, no, thank you. I'm not going to waste my time. They're going to all have about 7 home runs and probably 42 RBIs in one game. That's per person. So you get that math back to me, and then we'll talk.
I will probably not be finishing that math. But if anyone listener to us, throw it in the comments. Tell us what that math is, how that works out, how it makes any sense, like anything that we say on this show. But yeah, so we head to Houston this week to start things off. 3 games there. Projected rotation: Mize, Boyd, Fulmer. Casey Mize versus Zach Greinke on Monday night. What are we looking for out of Casey in this second start?
Well, first of all, that's a really fun matchup. Zach Greinke, probably one of the greats to recently do it in terms of starting pitching in the major leagues in the last 10 to 15 years, going up against a hopeful great in Casey Mize. So that'll be kind of a fun matchup. Definitely a tale of kind of 2 different stories in terms of careers. But again, just for Casey, kind of following suit with what he did in his last start against Minnesota. So, and I know I say it every time you ask me a question about what do you want to see out of a starting pitcher, but it's the same thing. I want to see them attacking batters. I want to see them getting ahead early, limiting walks, and just being smart all around. Now, it's interesting. The relationships that Casey Mize and Tarik Skubal has in terms of their catchers, it's always going to be Grayson Greiner, and then it's looking like for Boyd, what would have been Teheran and Urania, that's going to be where Wilson Ramos comes in. So just kind of watching the relationship between a guy like Casey Mize and Grayson Greiner is something I'll be looking out for. But again, I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but just being in control against batters and attacking that strike zone and really limiting those walks. Casey Mize didn't have a horrible start his last time out against the Twins, so I'd really like to kind of see him build off that. And while the Twins have the good lineup, I would say, the Twins have a good lineup. I shouldn't shortchange them there, but Houston also has a very good lineup. So he's going to definitely have his work cut out for him, as will all the Tigers pitchers as they go into Houston this week.
Yeah, Houston 6-3 on the season. They were off on Sunday. Plus 23 run differential. So their bats are doing okay right now. 56 runs scored in the first 9 games of the season. 1-2 at home, 5-1 on the road. So yeah, they're in a good spot right now. They have started the season better than I anticipated that they would. As obviously I was not kind to them in our season pick show and our schedule preview. Homecoming for AJ Hinch in a way. as he comes into Houston for the first time since losing the managerial position, the Houston Astros, after serving a 1-year suspension before coming to your Detroit Tigers. And so, it'll be an emotional day, certainly all around. I don't think particularly negative emotions,
No.
but it will be emotional, certainly. A lot of good things happened for AJ Hinch in that city, and obviously brought them a championship. Regardless of any asterisk anyone wants to put on it, brought them a championship.
True.
And so, yeah, it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see the game tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't think that in regards to the AJ Hinch homecoming, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. I think he'll be pretty well received when he goes out to bring the lineup card out the game tomorrow night. Like you said, whether you like it or not, whether it's fair, unfair, asterisks, or no asterisks, the Houston Astros are World Series champions, and AJ Hinch was the man to lead them to that World Series. Now he's our man, and now he's going to do it with us, and there'll be zero controversy. So suck on that, Houston. But I think we'll be
bang on that trash can.
Suck on that trash can, Houston. That's the shirt right there. Suck on that trash can, Houston. It'll be okay. I'm not really worried about anything like that. I think he'll be pretty well received when he returns to Houston tomorrow night. So it'll be, or I guess tonight, whenever.
I guess tonight, as you listen to the episode on Monday as it drops.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting. The series, I'm worried about the Tigers, man. We talked in the first half. The Bats' offense is not alive. They're about to now go now they're going into a city where their team is just really hitting. You just gave the number there, which is pretty impressive to start off their season. So they got their work cut out for them.
Yeah, it definitely is. As I look at this series and this week in general, you're kind of desperately looking for some bounce back from these Tigers, and this is a very tough week for that to happen because these are definitely two great franchises that they're taking on this week. And then as we kind of talk Oakland in just a second here, obviously Oakland started this year pretty rough, but I don't think that they're working it out. They're getting there. They're coming back pretty strongly. So Boyd on Tuesday. I would love to see some confirmation that Matt Boyd is kind of who we think he is so far this season, coming out of there. And then obviously a little nervous about the Fulmer start, just because he has been great out of the pen, but was not good as a starter last year, to put it mildly. And so hopefully that has been fixed. Hopefully he seizes the opportunity. He has mentioned that he wants to get back to being a starter in this league. And so this is obviously a moment for him to prove himself that he can be a starter in this league. And hopefully he rises to that occasion and throws a great start on Wednesday.
Yeah, in my eyes, all three starts are kind of must-watch TV. Then again, we watch damn near 99% of all the games, so every game is must-watch by that definition for us. But the Mize start is obviously intriguing to watch just because it's Casey Mize. He's still searching for his first win in the major league, so he's still on that trail. And I would love to see him do it against a team like the Houston Astros. That's definitely a nice little accomplishment. The Astros are no slouch when it comes to the MLB. So, that'd be a nice little kind of notch in his belt. The Matt Boyd start will be interesting, as you said, just because I think he's gotten off to a really nice start this year. I want to see him continue that against Houston this week. So fingers crossed our guy Matt Boyd can just, hey, if he pitches like he did last week or even in his first start, I'll take either start, honestly. I thought he's pitched really, really well this up to this point in the season. So I hope he continues it, and we'll just kind of have to wait and see what happens there. And then the Michael Fulmer start is intriguing because, again, although he did not pitch well as a starter at all last year, he has pitched pretty well out of the pen this year. So maybe that kind of translates from bullpen to starter. We'll just kind of have to see how the cards fall there. But yeah, it's exciting and some intriguing matchups, no doubt about it. But we just need the offense to hit. Offense has got to find a way to hit. You can't beat Houston only scoring 1 or 2 runs. It's very unlikely that you get away doing that. So you got to score some runs this week, boys. There is no exceptions. You got to score some runs.
Yeah, and then we go to Oakland for 4 games. I believe this is the first 4-game series of the season. against the Athletics, who are currently 3-7. They're at Arizona the first half of this week. They played a good chunk of the first games of the season against the Houston Astros. So their current run differential is -32. It's a little ugly for the Oakland Athletics at the moment. A very ugly start to the season, but they have started to get the wheels kind of back on the bus there. As I said, this week, tough bounce back week, but you have to think also, if they can steal some wins in this week, that can go a long way to boosting confidence. And so it is kind of a very important week in that way of like, which way is the rest of this month going to go is probably the big question. As they get to through to next Sunday, they then have a day off on the Monday following. So hopefully that means they can go into that with a little bit of confidence if they've, taken 3 in Oakland and 2 in Houston. Then I think we're singing a different tune next week as we get here.
Absolutely. That's definitely kind of, I think, the goal at this point in time. And we still want to obviously take it one game at a time. I know it's cliche, but realistically where this team is at right now and how they're hitting and pitching, just overall playing, that needs to be the mindset. Just one game at a time, figure it out. And I guess maybe, to put a positive spin as we kind of wrap up on this or whatever, they're not even 10 games into the season yet. So rightfully so, we have a right to be pissed off right now, because not only did we really have to battle against our own division this last week, and we came up short on most of those games. On top of that, the losses in terms of injuries to Teheran and Miggy. It's okay to be pissed off as a Tigers fan right now, but we all need to keep telling ourselves, even what I have to tell myself, is we're not even at 10 games yet. The season is so long. We just, you never know what can happen in this sport. Baseball is such a game of what have you done for me lately? Lately, the Tigers have sucked. But as you just said, Alex, they have a semi-decent series against Houston and Oakland. A week from now, we're going to be doing a show, and our tune is going to be completely changed. If the Tigers, let's say they got 7 games coming up. If they could leave this next road series going 4-3, I'm happy. I'm happy. I'll take it. If they can muster out a 4-3 record at the end of this road trip, going up against on the road, against Houston and Oakland, going 4-3, I'll take it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that looking at the standings right now, the Tigers are 3-6 in the bottom of the Central, and like you don't ever like to see your team at the bottom of the table, but that represents they're 2.5 games back, and
so early.
So they're still very much in it. You're not going to get all 2.5 games back in one game. It's going to take time. You just got to kind of chip away at it, and that's what we got to do right now. It starts right now. The attitude of, okay, this is new. Turn the page. It's over. Let's go. Yeah. And I think that has been AJ Hinch's public-facing mindset, and I'm certain that he's probably getting into the guys a little bit in the locker room Sunday after this series sweep. Certainly we've started to see the guys kind of get after each other. Some of them that were hanging their heads a bit. So it's definitely going to be a defining week for this team in a lot of ways. It's going to tell us who they are. Are they going to roll over? Are they going to actually get in there and fight against Houston? Because again, Houston's a very good baseball team. If they drop some of these games 7-6, like maybe we'll be complaining about the pitching, but Houston's a good team, and that's a nice little battle. And depending on how they lose the games, I just don't want to see another 11-3 like we saw against the Twins, where they definitely gave up early in that game.
Exactly. That's enough of these lopsided games. That's now 2 in 1 week. I'm done with those. I think I mentioned this too. I think on maybe it was last week's episode or the Thursday live show. I honestly don't remember at this point. It's been just such a trying week for the Tigers. Everything's starting to blur together into a nightmare. But as I've said in the past, this team needs to do one thing: tread water. So now this is a great point with this upcoming road series, as the road series continues, I should say, against Houston and Oakland, to do just that: tread water. Now, if we come back a week, if we fast forward to a week from now and they've got 7 games and they go 1-6, yikes. Now you're not treading water. Now you're looking for a lifeboat because you're about to drown. That's kind of where you're at. So just tread water, go out there. We know they can play competent baseball. We know that this offense has the potential to hit. The pitching has the potential to go out there and be dominant. Now, take that with a grain of salt because every team has the potential to go out there and be good. That's what it means to have potential. You can be good, but also you can suck. So let's stay away from the latter half of that argument. Let's just focus on going out there. The offense comes alive. The pitching does what it needs to do. They're in these ball games. They're playing smart and competitive baseball. They're not giving up games. They're not giving up outs. They're not giving up at bats. Let's just go out there, take it a game at a time, and let's get some wins this week because we need them. That's what we need. We need wins.
Absolutely, and we will be here to chat about this with everybody as we go through the week. We're planning another live show this week. If you want to join us, we'll likely do it on our Facebook page. When we went to do it live on the Facebook page last week, Facebook so badly didn't want us to go live, they just shut down the whole website.
Yep.
So that we went over to YouTube. But hopefully they don't do that again.
Yeah. And Facebook must have been a Cleveland fan.
Yeah, they were like, we can't talk about this right now.
Yeah.
So we will be going live. Check our Twitter, Mish_Trumbull. Follow us on Facebook, follow us on YouTube, hit the live alerts so that you can make sure that you know when we go live, but we will definitely be live midweek, hopefully talking about a great series against Houston and previewing about to trounce the Oakland Athletics. We'll reach out to our good friend Tom, see if he wants to join us to talk a little smack ahead of the Oakland series. Tom, as you listen to this episode, this is your formal invitation. I will not be contacting you otherwise. Luke, any final thoughts?
It was a long weekend. I think I'm gonna go have a beer and just chill out.
Yeah, I think that's a great plan, and we will see you later this week during the live show, and next week, same time, same channel for the regular show. Have a good one.
See you, buddy. Go Tigers.